My grandson's grip tightened on my arm, eyes filled with a fear I'd never seen before. Moments earlier, I was enjoying what I thought was a simple family dinner. Good food, fine wine, light conversation about real estate, it had all seemed so normal. But Tyler's urgency was undeniable. "Please," he whispered, "just trust me. Something's wrong." In 2 decades, Tyler had never given me a reason not to trust him. So despite the awkward glances from guests and the protests from my daughter, I followed him out. What he told me in that parking lot changed everything. 3 days earlier, we'd had a major disagreement. My daughter and her husband, Julie and Brad, had come over asking for money again. Another, can't-miss, business idea. I'd said no, firmly. The conversation turned sour quickly, and they stormed out. I figured that was the end of it. I never expected what came next. That argument was only the beginning of something much bigger, more calculated, and more dangerous than I could have imagined. By the end of this story, you'll see how a simple family dispute turned into a terrifying plan. You'll see how trust can be twisted, how desperation can push people into shocking actions, and how unlikely allies can make all the difference. The night of the argument, Julie had barged into my living room like a storm. She didn't even say hello. "Mom, we need to talk." I was sipping tea and reading my usual property newsletter. Calm as ever, I said, "Good afternoon to you too, sweetheart. Care for some tea?" She wasn't in the mood. Dropping her designer bag loudly on the table, she went straight to the point. "Brad has a new opportunity, and we need your help." Brad walked in behind her, looking uneasy. That told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't his idea. "A tech startup," Julie explained. "They're doing something revolutionary with food delivery and AI. Brad's been invited to invest early." I said nothing at first. Just walked to my office and retrieved the folder I'd marked, "Brad Hayes, Past Investments." "Revolutionary, huh?" I asked as I laid out past documents across the table. Documents that told a different story. Failed crypto investments, an abandoned smoothie business, and a luxury car deal that ended with a vanishing seller and $52,000 gone. "That's $135,000 down the drain," I said flatly. Julie's voice sharpened. "You always focus on the failures. What about the wins?" "I'm still waiting to see one," I replied. She tried again. "This one's different. Real money, real tech, real returns. Then show me the business plan." She didn't have it, so I didn't have money. Brad chimed in, trying to sound persuasive. "This is a limited time offer. The window closes Friday." "How convenient," I replied. "Just like last time. And the time before that." I stood, signaling the conversation was over. "No," Julie snapped. "You're being selfish, Mom. Sitting on all this money while your own family struggles. I'm sitting on the results of 40 years of hard work. I built this myself. Every brick, every dollar." "Times had changed," Julie said. "I didn't understand modern business. Everything moves fast." I smiled sadly. "Scams always move fast, dear. That's how they work." They left angry. Brad quietly. Julie slamming the door so hard it shook my china cabinet. I watched from the window as they argued outside, voices raised, gestures sharp. Neighbors paused their dog walks to stare. Later that night, something worse happened. The next morning, I opened my front door and froze. My mailbox was destroyed, bent and broken, but that wasn't the worst of it. Across my white front door, someone had sprayed bright red paint. One word: selfish. This wasn't vandalism. It was a message. Tyler stood in the dim parking lot, his voice barely louder than a whisper. "I overheard something last night," he said. "I wasn't supposed to, but I stayed over at Aunt Julie's, and they didn't know I was still awake." He swallowed hard. "They were talking about getting you to sign something. Something about transferring ownership. They said you were getting too old, and that if you wouldn't agree, they'd make it look like you had lost your mind." I stared at him, stunned. "What? They want to get power of attorney," he said. "Brad even joked about putting something in your drink to make you seem confused. Just enough to get a doctor to write it down." My legs almost gave out beneath me. Tyler reached out to steady me. "That's why I got you out of there," he said. They were acting like tonight was a setup. I felt cold all over. My own daughter, planning something like that? We sat in my car in silence for a moment before I finally spoke. "Did anyone else hear this?" He nodded. "Mrs. Henderson from next door. She was over earlier and heard them talking through the open patio door. She told me to be careful." Mrs. Henderson had been my neighbor for years, sharp as a tack and not one for gossip. If she heard something, I believed her. I started the car. "Where are we going?" Tyler asked. "To Patricia Sullivan," I said. "My attorney." Patricia had handled my legal affairs for nearly a decade. Smart, discreet, and always 3 steps ahead. If anyone could help, it was her. Within an hour, we were sitting in her home office. I laid it all out. What Tyler had overheard, the vandalism, the pressure, the threats. She listened quietly, then said, "We need to act fast. First, we'll update your will and revoke any prior powers of attorney. Then, I'll file a restraining order if necessary. Do you have cameras installed?" I nodded. "Yes. Front porch, backyard, driveway." "Good. Save the footage, especially from last night and today. We'll need it." Tyler sat stiffly beside me, still shaken. Patricia turned to him. "You did the right thing. It's not easy to speak up against your own family." He nodded, his jaw tight. By the next day, everything was in motion. New legal documents were signed. The footage from my cameras was archived and backed up. And I had locks changed on every door. I wasn't going to be caught off guard again. Then came the phone call. My greatest victory wasn't taking down Julie and Brad's deception. It was making sure the next generation learned what integrity truly means. Sullivan Properties would live on through someone who shared my principles. The legacy I spent a lifetime building would remain in trustworthy hands. That evening, Tyler and I sat on the porch, mapping out his training and discussing strategies for managing the business. Across the yard, Mrs. Henderson waved from her garden. My phone buzzed with calls from colleagues eager to collaborate. Life was moving forward, built on truth, not manipulation. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is stop enabling harmful behavior. Sometimes, love means allowing people to experience the consequences of their choices. Julie and Brad chose deceit and selfishness, and they ended up facing the full weight of accountability. I chose truth and responsibility, and in return, I found peace and the respect of my community. Tyler chose honesty over blind loyalty, and now he's standing on a future rooted in integrity. As the sun dipped behind the hills of Beaverton, I realized something. Justice doesn't just punish, it heals. My story may be over, but the values behind it will live on. And now, I'd love to hear from you. Do you think I made the right call in standing up to Julie and Brad? Or did I go too far?